Okay. Well, I line up the boxes there anyway. Look better with that.
Great. Put on the branding, I suppose. Sponsor. There you go. There.
We're good to go anyway, I think, yeah.
Are we?
Yeah.
So,
Say hello. Turn this around anyway, that's only for Julia, right? So it's only Julia.
Julia.
We'll be getting her the sample pack.
Well, thanks everybody for coming in.
Right, do you want the music? Is the music down or? Yeah, it's okay as it is.
Small.
Turn it down.
Yeah.
You want the mic?
No, it's right. So, how about you? You have it. Let's go away.
So, yeah, do you want to, we want to welcome and
So, thanks for coming in, lads. It's nearly a full house for us again. We really appreciate all the new people coming in. So, fantastic to see you. And obviously, thanks again for the people who came to our trip. It was a great out there. And our first cask got agreed on today as well. So, as a society, we're really moving on, and it's lovely to see. And we have Lough Ree here today with a real selection of different podcasts. Some of them are really interesting. With an award-winning here, vanilla, which is a lovely product, and obviously the best whiskey has arrived in season as well. So I'll hand it over.
Good. Right. Thanks, Barry. Okay, I'm not actually supposed to be here, right? I'm supposed to be my brother Mike, and Sheila is my sister down here. And Mike had a family bereavement on his wife's side during the week. So anyway, I stepped in to preach. So which are sometimes that's the best way, isn't it? So I have Mike's tasting notes here, right? And where if you meet myself and Mike, we're like two different people, about twice the size of them. And we're chalk and cheese, right? So Mike would kind of work off a script, right? I tend to not work off a script, right? But he's the real whiskey expert in our family, so I will kind of probably defer to the tasting notes for various elements of it, right? So that's the story. So it's great to be here. I think Mike's been trying to organise this with the lads for a while. So anyway, we're finally here. And Julia, actually, how are you, Julia? Who's a very old friend of ours, I suppose. Great to meet you the other night at the Whiskey Awards. And Julia and Ernie, guys, I'm sure you know her. Kind of won the best whiskey at the Irish Whiskey Awards. So I don't think I've ever seen her so happy. We've known her a long time. I think it was a tear or two as well. First of all, and you have to bring in a Swiss woman to do it, so maybe that's the secret. Like that could be the way going forward. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose Limerick, probably the only connection between us and Limerick is the Shannon. It's down there somewhere, and we're way off up the other end of it. There's probably another connection. A lot of Limerick people go to Kilkee, I'm sure. So our spiritual home is Kilkee. Clancy is our second name. Our dad was from Kilkee, and he emigrated up to Longford in the 60s to try and base some knowledge or education into the things up there. So and we'll touch on that as we go through. So but yeah, so we have a long history back to Kilkee. See Dave there from Murphy's. If you're ever in Kilkee and you're looking for a new approach, you can always get it at Murphy's. So it's a great supporter of ours. So good to see some familiar faces. He's still in the shorts, so I don't know what Mike McClimate yeah. So I'm going to do this, right? So I'm going to going to talk to you a bit about us, right? Mike would tend to focus a lot more maybe on straight into the whiskies. I will tell you a little bit more about us as a brand, as a business, about the journey we've been on. And, you know, it's this kind of ever evolving journey, really, you know, and it's a mad journey, right? There's no 2 days are the same. There's lots of good days. There's equally as many bad days. But you know what? You kind of the good ones compensate for the bad ones, and you work hard enough, you make your own luck, and you get a few breaks along the way. And that's the journey. So, family business. Myself, Mike, and Shiela. We're the middle three of 6 kids. I suppose the distilling idea was a dinner table conversation back many years ago about a vacant premises we had in the town of Lanesborough, which is our hometown. And our mother was the one, something about a brewery or something. I knew nothing about this space. Mike had been a consultant engineer in the space, and he knew about brewing and distilling. And he's not too small for a craft brewery, but you could look at a micro distillery, right? And that started the whole journey where we got a few quid off the enterprise board to go and have a look at it. Just right, there might be something in this. And I suppose maybe a year and a half into that journey, we realized we were reaching the limit of our numerical capacity, and we got Shiela into the mix. So Sheila's a chartered accountant. So any business, you usually need a good accountant in it. And we have one of those. So so that became the kind of three of us working together. That's a family business. You know, people would often say to you, how do you get on as a family? How do you, like, you know, there's 3 years in age difference between myself, Shiela, and Mike, and we're in that order. So like, we kind of grew up together. We were bit lumps out of each other, go back to when we were that height. So, you know, we're just doing it in a different environment, and we're not bit lumps out of each other. There's a, you know, but we kind of started this journey. We got involved with Bart, right? And we're two engineers and accountants, so we're very kind of scientifically wired, if you like, America, right? The whole world of marketing, you know, and Bart and brand strategists and all of this. You know what I mean? It's just not what we were used to. But early in the piece, we set out a vision for our business with the help of the Bart guys. And we come up with this really simple vision, which was to bring to the world from our hometown in Lanesborough the finest, most highly regarded Irish spirits. And it's amazing, 5, 6, 7 years later, how many times we refer to that. That's what we do as a business. That's why we're doing what we're doing, right? It's got the kind of globality in it in terms of wanting to not just have a domestic business, to have an export business. It's got the hometown, the place we grew up in, which we're hugely passionate about, and it's got fine spirits, right? And it's not, you know, and it was purposely fine spirits, not whiskey, right? Because what a distillery does is make alcohol, right? I'm sure a lot of the glamour out there at the moment, and you know, is on the whiskey end of it. But what you realize is you have the capability to make other products as well, and ultimately the business has to work as a business. So that's what's kind of led us on some of the journey. So and it started with this kind of notion that we were going to build a big distillery in Lanesborough, which we're still going to do, right? And we went off and got planning permission and everything else for that. And then around 2018, started 2018, the opportunity came up to, there was an old butcher shop in the town. The butcher had walked out the door on Christmas Eve, threw the keys back in the letterbox and said, I want to be a plasterer or something, right? And so this shop, the premises was vacant. And we had this in our head that there was a big food fair in Lanesborough every October. We wanted to launch our first product at that food fair in 2018. So we had two choices. We could have gone out and got a contract manufactured, or we could do it ourselves. And we started looking at the idea of setting up a micro distillery first, and that's ultimately what we went with. And it was, going back to the vision bit, it was very important because it now set us up operationally in Lanesborough. We now were Lough Ree Distillery. Sure, we weren't in the big place that we ultimately want to be in. We were Lough Ree Distillery, making fine spirits in our hometown. And that was what we were setting up, right? So, you know, forgive me in some of this, you know, I could talk with this all night, right? So I'm going to try and give you the potted version of some of it. Sheila's young fella is my godson, you know, and he called me a waffler. Right? So I think Carla Bree Snicker, they know him well. He's very careful of it. So you know, hopefully I'm not waffling. So please, somebody ask a question if I'm going off track here. So we started off with Sling Shot, and this will all lead to the first product. Okay, so started off with Sling Shot, which was, again, we had all the brand work done with 4B and everything else on that, and this was our first product, Sling Shot Distilled Irish Gin. Julia worked with us on the development side of this. So we, you know, we had this distillery, didn't really know what to do with it. I suppose my brother Mike had always been into kind of spirits and taste, flavors and that kind of stuff. So Julia came along and helped us for a number of weeks to get distilling, to learn the ropes a little bit. Her son Felix then came and worked with us for maybe 3 or 4 months. And he was used to distilling, and we kind of learned a lot of the ropes with him. So I won't bore you about Sling Shot, except to say this is the only spirit in the world which peat distilled as botanical in it, right? So if any of you guys have ever ventured further north to Tullamore, right, the terrain up there is all peat. So Lanesborough is Pordenamona town. We're surrounded on 3 sides by peat. The Shannon is on the other side, of the far side of the Shannon, there's more peat. So but that's Roscommon. So.
Different gravy.
Different gravy. You already go from Galway, so you know what I'm talking about. So that was Sling Shot. So October 2018, we launched that in at the food fair. So probably one of the, I'm going to say one of the only milestones we've hit, but we did hit that one anyway, you know. So that was the story. So and kind of even before 2018, once we kind of got into the business, we thought it'd be a good idea to buy whiskey, right? You know, didn't really know what we were going to do with it, so it wasn't this grand plan. But you know, whiskey became available, and we had funds to buy some of it and that. So I suppose ultimately, you know, what that came to in kind of this time of the year, 2019, was to go and release our first whiskey, which was under the Bridge series, right? And we'll talk more about the Bridge as we're going through this, because we're going to taste a lot of it, right? So, and what the Bridge are single casks, right? So different whiskies, you know, grains, malts, different ages, different maturations, different finishes, right? And again, you're going to taste I think 4 of those here tonight, right? You know, they worked out to be really successful for us. Okay, so people kind of latched on to the first few releases of these, and they were selling. And as soon as you kind of put the flag up as another distillery whiskey, you start getting the exporting inquiries, right? The fellas from abroad and some other regions in Ireland whiskey, let me talk to them. So we spent a few months kind of skirting around that, and what you realize very quickly was actually these guys want, as an entry point, don't want convoluted whiskey, right? Don't want a product that they can buy and try, and if it works, they want more of it and more of it and more of it, right? So the notion of kind of single casks was difficult to present, and ultimately it was too expensive of whiskey for them anyway, right? You know, and so some of these guys were looking for entry point whiskey, and the Bridge is an entry point whiskey. Somewhere in that journey, not somewhere in it, March 2020. So that was kind of the picture to 2019. We're going into 2020. We've done a good bit of work on the export side of it. We had, you know, full of joy and optimism and continued naivety, I suppose, about the future, you know. And then COVID happened, right? So all of a sudden you're going, what are we going to do now, you know? We spotted hand sanitizer really early on. We got into hand sanitizer. And to be honest with you, it was the saving of the business, right? Because we wouldn't, you know, the first lockdown you might have survived. You might have survived the second one, but Jesus, you wouldn't have survived the kind of 2-year with all your markets closed, right? And you know, I kind of hate saying this because COVID was a difficult time for people. But the first 6 or 8 weeks of COVID, right? I mean, I'm 30 years working in business, right? I never had such crack, you know, like that 6 or 8 weeks, because was fellas ringing us. I literally decamped to Lanesborough for the 6 weeks. Sheila was sitting across the table from me. I got two phones going, and I was literally firing out across post-its and sending fellas out invoices, right? And we had one golden rule from the start: no credit. You want it, pay for it, right? So we were getting the most outrageous requests, and the most outrageous sums of money lodged into our bank account. Fellas, if you did work for them in normal circumstances, you'd be trying to drag the money out, right? So it was fierce crack, and there's a whole book about that in itself. Nearly, I remember, and the first batch of it we bottled ourselves, myself and Sheila and my brother Mike, and another Mike who works with us. And then the thing started taking off. Jesus, how are we going to resource this? Schools and colleges closed, right? So we had three nephews in Lanesborough, aged average age. I think one of them was fifth year, one of them was first year in college. The other that way doing third. And then I brought my young fella down from Dublin who was 16 and his first cousin, off the wing with his mother, right? And one of their girlfriends. So we went, two people into the distillery, later night, and it was magic, honest to God. It was the best crack, right? But ultimately, it kind of, what it did was brought us breathing space to be able to figure out, Jesus, what do we do now? And that, we went off then into kind of putting stuff online. And, you know, it's not, we had a gin school in Dublin, a gin school at home, kids developed some other products. So it just brought us this breathing space. Hang on, how are we going to structure this business going forward? And I suppose the other important thing it taught us on the business side is the importance of revenue cash flow, right? So you can be talking all the time in the sky you want about premium spirits and whiskies and all the rest, right? A business survives on cash. If you don't have cash into your business, you know, it's game over, ball first very quickly. So, and that kind of led maybe to where some of these other products developed, because go back to we're a distillery, we have the wherewithal to make alcohol, we're licensed to make alcohol. This is all alcohol, right? So just circle back a little bit to I was talking about the bridge stuff, right? And I suppose once we came out the early part of 20, or you know, through 2020, you know, the market started to open up a little bit, and you know, you're kind of reflecting back on the bridge and some of these export opportunities. And what we realized in that was, hang on, we need to develop a blended whiskey, right? Because go back to what I was saying about the, you know, trying to educate the guy on the bridge, the entry point had to be something that a guy could try. If he liked it, he could come back and say, you know, he starts with half a pallet, then the next time he wants a pallet, then the next time he wants several pallets, right? So that led us to saying, right, we need to look at a blended whiskey here, which is the first whiskey on your plate. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about it. You're welcome to smell it, taste it, or whatever. Nose it, I think we should say, isn't it, rather than smell it. So yeah, actually the order of this is the bottom three working from left to right, and then the top three working from left to right. Okay, so the first one is Bart's.
The bar is open.
So I suppose the story behind developing Bart's was when we came to look at the liquid, we wanted to do something that, you know, we wanted to add something to the category, not just another 40% blend. That was what our distributors abroad were saying to us, is, lads, give us something that differentiates the product. So in Bart's, what you'll find is 79% grain, 11% pot still, because again, we felt pot still is the kind of, you know, the classic Irish style whiskey. If you want to make an Irish blend, you should have some pot still in it. And then we wanted to play around with some of the kind of finishes in it. The story behind Bart is our dad. My dad, who's Sheila's dad as well, and Mike's dad, which so that removes any ambiguity. So it's and so he was the man from Kitty, and he was a medical teacher. So up in Lanesborough, has anyone ever been to Lanesborough? No? Yeah. So you know where we are. So most people would know Lanesborough for the power stations, right? So Ford and Alona came to the area in the 1940s, started commercializing bogs. ESB followed in the early 50s, right? First power station in Lanesborough in 1951 or two, I think. And by the kind of late 50s, they needed replacement workers. You know, so Bart owner made all their own machines. So they'd load the guys, fitters and welders and turners. And, you know, ESB weren't far behind. So they needed technical people. So they opened a tech vocational school called the Tech School, Technical School in Lanesborough in 1960. So there was 5 teachers the first day. One was our dad, who had come from West Clare, metalwork teacher. It was his first job. I remember asking him one time, why did you come to Lanesborough? And he said, I was offered 4 jobs and I came to Lanesborough because that was the first one. That was the first job I was offered. So I thought it was because he wanted to get further, as far away from the sea as he possibly could, but that was why he came. And our mother, who was a home economics teacher, right? So good old 1950s Ireland, teach the men how to go out and work, teach the women how to stay at home and have babies and keep house, right? And that was, so they obviously got together through the cold nights in Lanesborough, I suppose, and that's why there was 6 of us, you know. But when we came to look at the kind of development of the whiskey, was this notion in it that like our dad's hobby probably and he passed away in 2010, long before this was even in our heads, right? So he, you know, God rest him now, he'd be looking down on us going, Jesus Christ, what's this dog on off the rails here, you know? But his hobby for the last 20 years of his life was fixing clocks, right? So he wasn't a big drinker, barely drank at all actually. And how he got his kicks was fixing clocks, and he was brilliant with his hands, so he had the wherewithal to go off and buy clocks at auctions, take them apart, strip them down, and more impressively put them back together and make them work, right? And there was this kind of obvious parallel between the clock. Like if you think of a clock, the smallest wheel and the biggest wheel are as important, right? So if the small wheel doesn't work, the clock doesn't work, right? And in a blended whiskey, it's exactly the same. So the smallest component has to work with the biggest component, or else the blend doesn't work. So through the kind of journey of the kind of liquid development, you know, this kind of story started to stare us in the face in terms of, here's a nice way of, I suppose, bringing our father along on the journey, and not in a kind of a, you know, morose, sad kind of tribute way to him, you know. Just, you know, he was very passionate about clocks. We're very passionate about whiskey, and it was just a nice story about fishing, right? And so you'll see on the bottle and everything else where we use that kind of clock methodology, right? And on the back, again, we tell you exactly what's in the blend, and we use the kind of clock methodology for how it all hangs together. So that's the kind of backstory of Bart's. So let's taste a bit of it. Some of you have already tasted it. So and every time I have my own kind of suppose tasting notes on this, but Mike, every time I read Mike's ones, he seems to include something different. And Mike, you know, Mike is one of these people. If you went for dinner with Mike 10 years ago, you remember what you had, not alone what he had for dinner, what you had for dinner, right? So he over a 20-year period, he's developed this kind of memory bank of tastes and flavors, right? And when we started this business first, I suppose he didn't have the confidence. You know, we were using other people to do tasting notes. But as he kind of grew in confidence and realized, hang on, Jesus, I'm able to do this myself. And now he does all the tasting notes. And it's not, you know, we were joking earlier. I remember the first guy who had some tasting notes and the invoice coming in. You know, it was something like 300 quid to taste to write the tasting notes for 2 whiskies. And like Sheila was, what, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? So all he's doing is tasting some whiskies. But the guys who taste whiskies, they basically cleanse their palate, right? So they would spend 2 or 3 days. If they know they're going tasting, Julia, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. They'll go and they'll cleanse their palate, so they won't drink coffee, they won't smoke, they won't eat curries and all of that, right? Because and what they're drawing on then is this kind of memory bank of tastes and flavors that they've built up over time. And Mike, unbeknownst to us probably, and unbeknownst to himself, maybe he was purposely doing it, but I didn't. But that's, you know, so that's what he's drawn on. So here,
you've been whiskey drinkers yourselves previous to getting involved, you know, regularly, like
not massively, right? you know, you're coming out of Coppers at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, there's nothing else to drink, like, I mean, you know, but no, we wouldn't have had great exposure to it.
Yeah.
Like, whereas, and Mike would actually credit this with, Mike was 50 there recently, so he says that for his 30th birthday, a friend of his gave him a bottle of Redbreast 12, right? And then he was in a bookshop and he spotted this book, The Lost Distilleries of Ireland, which piqued his interest, and he bought it and he started reading it, right? And he would say that that's what got him interested in whiskey. But I suppose he was working in the space, right? So he was working in, you know, he would have been doing work in Middleton with the company he was in. He would have been doing work in other, not necessarily on the product side of it, but he knew the process and he was interested in the process. So Mike is you know, and no problem saying this, Mr. Shiela, Mike is the whiskey guru in our family, right? You know, beauty of the family business, we all have different strengths, and you try to have the sum of the parts working, but very firmly, that's his, and he's brilliant at it. Like, honest to God, he really is. So, on this, and again, so what are you getting on the nose here?
Banana, someone said,
Banana. Haven't heard banana now.
it's someone said.
So I'm gonna tell you what Mike's notes are, right? And I've been noticing this for a couple of years, right? And some of these I've never got, right? So freshly charred orange peel. I think I get a hint of that. Toasted marshmallow, I've never got. Toasted marshmallow. Well, I'm gonna tell you a funny story. We were getting a pork chop door at some stage, I know, with Sling Shot, right? Yeah. Sling Shot is served with one of the garnishes is putting the grape, right? Yeah. So these pork is in a bag anyway. And I'm looking at this. You know, that's fresh fruit, right? No, it was single grape. I mean, it looked like fruit that had been left there for a week, right? So, you know, yeah. That I suppose the guys who are into the taste of flavors, we go to, it's like chef, I suppose, we go to any lengths that you know, but you have to have that interest, I suppose, in the first place, right? And then the memory bank around it, you know what I mean? So that's, so I suppose he's obviously come across that and it's gone into the memory bank. Lighter aromas, kiwi, sliced pear, so kind of garden pear, definitely above it. Yeah. So some of that is coming from the grain, right? So the 79% grain, 11% pot still, 5% malt finished in rye cask, 3% malt finished in Olorosa cask, 2%. Right? So
Who would have come up with that blend then? Or yourselves, like?
Ourselves, yeah. We went up to Great Northern to the blending room up there. We had one external guy who's now head of whiskey actually in another distillery. He wasn't at the time working with us on it. And you know, we like the fellas who went to whiskey now, this is like going into a sweet shop, right? 40 different bottles of whiskey laid out, you know, 3-year-old grain, 4-year-old grain, 5-year-old grain, 3-year-old grain, a sherry finish, rum finish, marsala finish, you know. So Mike had a fair idea with this other guy of what direction they wanted to point the ship in. To be honest with you, we kind of walked away that day with kind of, you know, 95% of it that we were happy with, right? So the grain constituent and the pot still constituent never changed from that day, right? It was the last 10%. So we had 5% malts in rye, 3% malts in Oloroso, 2% peated malt. We went through an iterative process. There might be 10 iterations of that, where we were dialing one up, dialing one down, dialing one up, dialing, you know. And I laugh at this, right? We wouldn't be big fans of peated whiskey, right? So I remember a sample coming in one day, and it was 3% peat, right? Now, and Shiela, down there would be the least fan of peated whiskey, right? So sample came in, Sheila opened it, smelled it, just gone, but we're not fucking having that anyway. Right? That was the end of that, right? So it was repeated at 3%, right? And they would say on a peated whiskey, you know, to have a real influence piece that it needs to be 5%. Like if you look at say Sleeve League, right? If you look at I don't know the Silky range, and James, like James is a great guy, cracking guy, and they're if you go up there on a trip, cracking what he's doing up there. So I think the entry point Silky, the one with the red label, is it's 5%. The dark Silky is 15%, and the midnight Silky is 35%. Right, and you know, depends. If you like peated whiskey, you probably like that progression. You know, I have a few bottles at home. I dabble in them now and again, but I always find if I'm in a bad humor or something else, don't drink peated whiskey because you won't go near the bottle for another 6 months, right? So, does that answer your question? How we kind of got there? So,
Julia commented as well. She said there was some job getting the taste out of the peat.
For the gin.
Yeah, Sling Shot Gin. Yeah.
getting the taste out of the peat. Yeah. So I suppose how we ended up doing it was, you know, people would think, oh, Portdemone is closing in Lanesborough now, but Lough Ree Distillery are using peat, like, such as we've a replacement industry here, like, you know, like we're still working out buckets of turf out of my mother's turf shed. You know what I mean? It doesn't take a whole lot. I think what, and again, this was Mike and Julia playing around with this, came up with in the end was, I think they would singe the peat, right? So break it up into really small chunks, get a blowtorch and singe it, right? I think it was then macerated in the alcohol and then distilled, right? So I think that's how they ended up getting the flavor out of it. But it's not a peaty flavor, right? It's a kind of an earthiness and a sweetness, right? If you think about it, you're distilling the ground, right? So
But it's not smoky.
no, it's not smoky at all, right? So where the smokiness comes from in whiskey, right, is that the malted barley is dried over peat smoke, right? And that introduces, I think they're called phenols, right? And depending on how long that is left or whatever, depends on how much, you know, how smoky the whiskey ends up, right? So, and like, to be honest with you, we were afraid of this bit ourselves at the start. We didn't want to kind of pigeonhole ourselves into this kind of subset of the gin market, which was the peated gin market, which didn't probably exist, right? You know, so we weren't kind of coming out saying this is a peated gin, because in the same way as a load of people don't like peated whiskey, we didn't want a load of people to not like peated gin, right? And that lasted probably till about the second trade fair we went in, where you're in a room with 50 other gins, and a guy is saying, "But what makes your gin different?" Right? So by the third trade fair, we go out and we bring a box of turf woods, turf wood, right? And we hold up a solid turf and said, "This makes me different. I'm the only lad in the room where this is the product, right? It's a marketing stunt, I suppose, for want of a better word, but it is our USP in it. So now we don't hide behind that anymore, right? We're the only spirit in the world, as far as we know, right, that has peat distilled as botanical in it. So that's our.
Julia said, Peter, you always told me that you'd kill me if I tell anyone how we make the peat or treated the peat.
Believe that first.
See, Julia, I'm confident enough none of these lads are going to go and try and imitate that. Whereas people you'd be talking to now would be different. They might actually have a hop off it, you know. So anyway, fair comment. Mike wouldn't tell you anyway. You know that. So back to Bart's here. So on the taste then, red fruit. Definitely, yeah. Sweet from dry spice. So again, you know, the influence of the kind of pot still and the rye on this is kind of after the initial kind of sweetness. So you're going to get a bit of sweetness from the grain anyway, right? Gives you this kind of spiciness which kind of comes from the rye and the pot. So closing out then with, you know, clove rock, crisp caramelized creme brulee. Now this is the brilliant part about Mike doing tasting notes, right? he tries to use everyday terms in it, right? I mean, there'll come some of these later on. He talks with leather and stuff like this. So taste and flavors that he has up here, right? So Clove Rock, I'm not actually sure what Clove Rock is. I presume it's that one with the
Sticker rock.
it's a sticker rock with the clove drops kind of thing.
The Kilkee you would have
That might have been it, with lynches or something written down the middle of it. Lynches,
Yeah.
Get him in the fire.
at least was it? What's the house? It's best there. Beside lynches. The Irish house. That was it. And the finish, long and spicy again. You're getting some of the oils coming through, and then I suppose we designed this that you'd get what we call a wisp of peat. So just a subtle hint of it, not a peated whiskey by any means, just a little kind of a wisp is probably the best way of describing it. That's not overpowering, very easy to drink. I mean, you might sort of people have said, oh, it's very light in color. Listen, we're big into kind of natural color, natural flavor. We don't add anything to it. You see a blend like this out in the market that looks like it's been 5 years in Olorosa sherry. Somebody's putting caramel in it. End of story, right? You're allowed to do that, right? But that's just not what we do. So, and
the spice is coming from. I mean, what percent is the pot still in the rye to make up?
11% pot and 5% rye.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah, it does come through, kind of halfway through it. It does come through it. Yeah, so very easy to drink. It's a 46%, right? And again, when we were coming up with this and out talking to distributors around the place, they were saying, "Hey, don't give us another 40% Irish blend, right? Give us something that helps us sell the product." Right? In Ireland, that adds about €2 to the excise duty because we've second or third highest excise duty in Europe. The excise duty in a bottle of Bart's here is €13.40, right? The excise duty in Austria is €3.90. So that extra 6% in Austria doesn't matter, Josh. It adds to the €2 to the price here plus the VAT of that. So it does make it more expensive. But we didn't design it for the Irish market. We designed it for the export market, and we always have to kind of keep that in mind, right? I suppose regularly we would get people coming back to us saying, do you know what? That's nearly pound for pound. That's as good a blend for the value or for the price point as the reason the Irish market. And we hear consumers saying that to us. That's good enough for us.
What price is it?
46%. 46 euro.
46 euro.
Yeah.
It's one lot, some awards.
Won lots of awards. So won a gold medal in San Francisco Awards in 2022. If Mike was given this taste, he'd be saying to you about a certain well-known blend which was released every year by a big Irish distillery down in the south, which was flooded there recently, right? I can't give you any more clues than that. That was in the same category, and it won a silver medal. This won the gold medal in the same category. Only 3 weeks ago, we were the only Irish brand exhibiting at a whiskey fair in Kiev. We weren't there ourselves personally, right? But we had a guy representing us out there, and it came second place of all the whiskies in the show, right? The rest of them were all Scotch. So I think it won a silver medal in Singapore. So it won. When you started this business first, it's great to win the first award and the second award and the third one. Now it's hard to keep track, to be honest with you. Across all our products, I don't know, it's north of 60 awards at this stage, and there is some very good ones in there. So, it's I suppose ultimately what that does is validates the vision around the finest, most highly regarded Irish spirits. That's what we're trying to do. So fellas turning around saying, yeah, that's a gold medal spirit or silver medal spirit. That proves to us that, yeah, you're doing the right thing. It is important, surprisingly important actually in export markets, because the guy is when he sees that gold medal, he sort of said, okay, this somebody else has said this is a quality product, right? And the likes of the San Francisco Awards would be one of the most recognized award. So that gold medal does carry weight, and fellas do pay attention to that. So it kind of works. You know, some of them are pure money making exercises. So that's it. Couple of other things. I mean, what do you think of it? What's have you had it before?
Lovely.
Again, David lost me down Murphy's key there any day, and probably at the cheapest price in Ireland. I got to tell you a story with this actually. So I live in Dublin in Churchdown, right? The bar up the road from me called Churchdown Stores, right? And my young fella works up there, right? And so myself and Mike were up there one night for a few pints, and the end of the night we said, "Here, so let's have a bar." So they got me son anyway. It was 2 bars there. That's grand. So I paid for it or whatever, and fishing around in my pockets the next morning and pulled out the receipt, and it just struck me as Lough Ree whiskey 9752, right? Okay. So we had some of the bridge whiskies up there. So the Bart wasn't even on the till, right? So I was kind of struck by the irony of here was Bart's 2 sons, right? Drinking a whiskey called after him, served to him by his grandson, right? And the absolutely kind of thing that really stuck in my craw was I had given your man the bottle for nothing. So yeah, successful publican. So anyway, that was corrected fairly promptly. No, but anyway, that's it. A couple of other things on this. We purposely put it in a lightweight bottle. Okay, so yeah, here's the picture. Those 2 bottles. So both a 700 ml bottle. So Bart's is in a 425 gram bottle, one of the lightest bottles out there in the market. The Sling Shot bottle is 760 grams, as are the bridge bottles. And why I know that is because Sweden has just introduced a law that all 700 ml bottles can be no heavier than 750 grams. And Sling Shot and the bridge are 760 grams. So we're going to have to do something about that. And if that's introduced in Sweden, 5 years' time, that's going to be all over the EU, right? So, lightweight bottle, and
With the same bottle that's used across the founders.
so, and again, when we came to refresh the branding on them, we go back to the Board Bia. So one of the things about being involved in Board Bia is you're tied into this thing called Origin Green, right? So Origin Green, and you'll see the dairy farmers and the beef farmers and the yogurt producers and everything else are tied into Origin Green. And that's all about, I suppose, the provenance and your contribution to sustainability, right? And it's not just a badge that you get once. It's an incremental process of improvement. So you have to kind of set out a plan that you're going to try and achieve, and then to keep your Origin Green certification, you've got to be seen and measured against achieving that, right? So, putting the rest of this range into those bottles allowed us to make a big step towards saying, okay, in this year we've reduced the weights of all of these bottles across this range by in some cases 40 to 50%, right? So gold star in our copybook till now. I don't know what we're going to do next year. Well, I do know what we're going to do next year. Leads me on. You're probably wondering what this green thing is here. And this gentleman from Galway here says, geez, if you think that if you put a red stripe across that product up to Mayo, I think it was a stand of fire. And they probably would for as many times as they've seen. I'd say nothing to compare with. Yeah, no. It's like we're from Longford now, which isn't exactly it's like our football stronghold either. It's like describing people that we have every somewhere off. We don't need to be worried about any of that. We purposely get out with the championship by about May, and we can do whatever we want, This thing here is called Eco Spirit. So this is the next place that sustainability is going. We have the licensed operator in Ireland for this. So we bought the rights and everything else to this. So what Eco Spirits is if you think your normal spirits being delivered, I'm looking for a box here.
It's gone out to the back.
It's gone out to the back. This is your swordfish. In a case 6, right? What happens to the case? Carpet gets thrown away. The bottles get at best recycled. Okay, and all of that is a huge cost to the producer, right? Put the product in the box and in the bottle, right? Eco Spirits does away with all of that. So this is a reusable 4.5 litre glass bottle in a polycarbonate surround, right? So we bought all the filling equipment and everything for this. So the idea is to go into a venue like here, and they would either serve out of it, okay, or keep bottles in the menu and refill the bottles, right? So they could keep, and we have this in places where they keep the same 6 bottles in the menu. They fill, it takes 4 minutes to fill a case of 6 bottles of that, right? Keep the same 6 bottles. These totes just recycle back, right? We're the 30th country to take this on. Diageo have had to sign in a global agreement with these lads. So this, you know, when the Republicans going on, yeah, but my bar is this, you know, 50 years ago, everyone's drinking stout out of bottles. Then taps came in, right? You know, so watch this space. We'll be going hard maybe at this next year, but yeah, so that's where sustainability is going. Right? But we've I won't say stolen a march on that, but we've spotted an opportunity in that, which can be commercially attractive for us as well. And you know, so go back toward Via and the brand values. Sustainability was one of those, and this is now I suppose we're living that. So listen, I can bore you to tears and all of that stuff as well. So we won't. We'll move on. Move on. Any more questions on the Barts there? You're all happy with it, or? Well, I dropped one the other day, which was full of gin. It was 150 euros worth of gin in it. I was taking it out of the car and it's right. But no, it's like this comes off the top of it, right?
No, I think the lightweight bottle. Yeah.
Haven't had any issues, right? I suppose the one positive on it is we can now put more bottles on a pallet, right? So. You know what? I don't know, right? I know we're shipping stuff at the moment. Like a lot of fellows would work on 100 cases per pallet, right? And you know, as you get into the kind of commercial side of the business, it all boils down to fractions of euros, right? So it costs 400 euros to ship a pallet anywhere in Europe. If there's 100 bottles, if there's 100 cases, there's 600 bottles on the pallet. So that is what 66 cents shipping cost per bottle, right? We're able to put 132 cases on the pallet, right? So there's a 25% saving on per bottle on the shipping cost, which ultimately, as you layer that up, is either more money in our pocket or makes the margins work better for the guy buying the product. So it's, again, I won't say that we're not Pernod Ricard, like that wasn't some big strategy like that, just something that has kind of come to us. So will I move on for Bart?
Yeah.
But anyone bored yet? No?
No, we've 5 more whiskies to go. Come on.
Right.
Your word is.
Jesus, right.
Huh?
So
No, I said we won't be bored till we have 5 more to.
Yeah.
these would be quicker, I suppose. So then we're on to the bridge, the first of the bridge, and again we're working from left to right on the bottom row here. So
The bridge is a lovely bottle too.
lovely bottle. So the bridge is actually an Armagnac bottle, right? And we kind of selected this because you know anything about wine, right? And we don't know anything about wine, right? We're always listening about the punt, right? The deep punt. If you go in and you buy a €7 bottle of wine in Super Value, it's flat. Whereas if you buy a €20 bottle, you'll have some form of punt in it.
So last time, yeah.
All I like is that this punt is implied quality, right? So we like the notion of this and it's great with the light, kind of reflects the light, refracts the light or whatever. So you get it looks really well. I suppose, you know, in our wisdom, we sort of said, Jesus, yeah, we early version of standardization. Where's my bottle of Sling Shot down there? We were going to use the same bottle for Sling Shot,
We
right?
made it lighter, Phil.
which we did, right? Except then we dyed it blue and you can't actually see the deep point in it, you know, which is unfortunate. And then one thing we learn about this business is kind of 5 minutes after you do something, there'll always be something like that with a new suggestion. So the best one I heard yet at the night, I think it was the very night we launched Sling Shot. You know, Jesus, that's lovely. Now, can you do a pink gin? Yeah, I can, but I can't do it in the bloody blue one. So it's kind of, which had a whole other story, right? I opened the wish Right, on to Black Donkey. This will be nearly up your country now, Black Donkey. Right? It's, so the bridge series, right? So the bridge, as I said, are single casks, and you know, so that means there's anything from kind of 200 to 700 bottles in a release. Different whiskies, different ages, and different maturation regimes, right? So what you're tasting here is one which was only bottled last Friday, right? And it's called Black Donkey #1, right? So what you spot if you look across all a range of the bridges, right, is most of them are called after place names in Lough Ree, right? So you have Saints Island, Elfie Bay, Killinure, Cruising Point I have here, Gaelic Bay, Inny Bay. So there, you know, we're Lough Ree Distillery. This is all tying us back to the local. The only way we kind of deviate from that is where we do collaborations, right? So we kind of started doing this a few years ago with St. Mel's Brewery in Longford, which closed unfortunately last year, and Dead Centre Brewing in Athlone, where simple premise, we have a cask, we send it to those guys that put beer in the cask for 6-9 months, send us back the cask, we'll put malt whiskey in it, 5 or 6 year old malt, for a period of weeks or months, and then you'll get the impact of whatever was in the cask on the whiskey, right? So this was our, so I think we're on Dead Centre #3. We're on St. Mel's #3 at the minute, and this was our first collaboration with Black Donkey. So Black Donkey is again craft brewery up in Ballinlough, which is between, I had to look it up actually. It's between Castlereagh and Ballyhauns. So if you're into sheep farming or whatever, that's there's the mark or something. But there's great guys up there, Richard, Black Donkey. So what this is, and again, this is definitely one I have to look up the notes for. So the cast that this was in was I'm not even going to try and pronounce this name right. Suffice to say, it was an Italian red wine cask from the Verona region in Italy, right? And the wine that was in it is known for kind of dark flavors, cherries, prunes, that sort of stuff. We sent it up to Black Donkey. They put their Rua ale in it, which I think is a red ale coming from a kind of natural yeast strain. And I think they had that in it for 6 months, okay, which yeah would be probably normal for those lads, okay. I've never tasted the beer from it. Mike said he tasted from the beer, just really fruity. It was lovely beer. They sent us back to cask. We put 6-year-old malt from Great Northern in it, and we left it for 6 months. Now this is
Did you whiskey in the cask?
no. So it went straight from the winery to Black Donkey, and then back to us. So, you know, I was describing this recently to somebody. So if you like, some of these things here are kind of chemistry, right? You know, the pink gin is colored, right? Because every spirit comes off still looks like that. So to get the color in, you have the color. Okay? That's chemistry. Okay. Casks is alchemy. Okay? Absolutely, right? Because they're not. There's no. You know, it's not an exact science, right? You know, it's not this linear equation where you stick something in the cask and X amount of time later it's going to be exactly this, right? Because every cask is different. You know, there's so many kind of different conditions. I mean, the temperature, the humidity, the ABV it goes in at, all kinds of stuff. I mean, Julia will give you chapter and verse on this. We should actually give you a slot here, Julia, for a while. So And any of these ones that we do, in terms of cask management on our side, we would, there's some stuff we put in casks. Like say we bought 4-year-old, 5-year-old pot still a couple of years ago. We're kind of know we're safe enough leaving that in bourbon for another couple of years because it's going to take that other couple of years before it's ready to put a finish on it, right? Again, if you see somebody out with a 5-year-old pot still, it's usually a little bit young. Pot still needs another couple of years more than malt, to be honest with you. So any of the beer cask ones, we don't send to an external warehouse. We keep them ourselves. And Mike is literally checking those with our distiller every week, every couple of weeks, and it's nearly like looking in the oven to see if the sponge cake is done. And just making sure that it's that it doesn't kind of overcook, right? So and some of the other beer cask ones we've done have been kind of 11 to 14 weeks in stout casks and that kind of stuff. And at that point he had sort of said, no, I don't want to let that go any further. And to us, I suppose it's all about the liquid. Quality of the liquid is what stands up, right? You can have all the other marketing stuff and everything else, but if you're not making good liquid in this business, you have a hole, right? So we're very anxious that the liquid is always as good as it can be, or as good as we at least think it can be, and we don't always get it right. So this one was 6 months, which I was kind of surprised by because we normally in the beer cask ones we don't leave it that long. So, what are we getting on the nose?
Very like a Speyside. It's a Tomatin 10 road cast strength. It smells really, really like it. Remarkable, actually.
Is that peated?
No.
Very sweet smell.
Sweet, yeah. It's kind of sweet maltiness, hint of chocolate, he says, like Ovaltine. Yeah. So fruity aromas, figs, prunes, sultanas, especially with a little drop of water. So again, any of these, feel free to kind of play around with a drop of water with them. Now I have to let you into a secret. The first time I actually tasted this was at about 10 to 7 here tonight. It was only bottled last Friday, so but it is on it's pretty good.
So nobody's actually tasted this really, or outside
It
of.
hasn't been released. It only went live on our website this evening, purely for this, right?
Right.
Because we're hoping you're all going to buy it, obviously, and there's a discount code on your thing there of 10% off.
Is that across the range and the 10% off?
Right across there. I think the Coosan Point and the Intiana, so the two really high end ones, it doesn't apply, but I think everything else is 10% off. Yeah. So on the QR, you can click the QR code just to give that 23 LRD discount code. But yeah, you guys are the first guys to taste this. It hasn't been released yet. 75.
It's good. It's worth it. Yeah, it's lovely.
What percentage is that?
So I think that's out of 43. 43, yeah.
Lovely drink.
We would any of these bridges, you'll never find any of the bridge less than 43, right? Some of the I suppose higher end ones, older ones, we would keep them at 46. We've done a couple of cast strength versions. And there's guys out there, there's always fellas want cast strength, but that's a big trade-off between satisfying that small part of the community and having more bottles at normal strength to sell to fellas. And because again in Ireland, you put something out of cast strength. Like we did, I was talking to the lads earlier, we did a special for Cork Whisky Society for their 10-year anniversary recently. 9-year-old Bushmills malt, 107 bottles of it at cast strength, was 59%, right? I think the excise on it was nearly €19 or something. It becomes not commercially viable, and people think you're ripping them off, right? And that's not the business we're in, like so. On the taste of this, sweet, soft with chocolate, fruit, so like figs, raisins, maybe even melon. I'm sure I got melon on it. And then this kind of lovely warm and spicy sauce, so cloves, nutmeg, a bit of cinnamon there at the end. So no, really happy with that. Yeah, I think that's worked very well. So that's the beauty of this bridge series, I suppose. It's kind of, you never quite know what's going to be the other end of it, you know. But, all happy with that? Any questions? Anyone? No, all happy. Good whiskey. We only make good whiskey now, so. We've started. So we got verified. I think we're actually the smallest whiskey distillery in Ireland, right? So we got verified summer before that. We have laid down some whiskey. It's probably a year, 15 months now, maybe. Very small quantities. We don't have any great release strategy for it. It might actually just be for family consumption nearly the amount of we laid down. But obviously, we expect to start early next year on building the bigger distillery, a much bigger distillery, which will be about the size of Clancy, 7,000 litre wash there. Probably bigger than Connacht. I think they're about 5,000. You know, and that'll get us on that journey of laying down our own. I don't think in this business that's what really is like the ultimate value in the business.
Yeah.
That's it. So, okay, all happy with Black Donkey?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's very good.
Good. Glad you like it. So, we'll move on. Do you guys take a break at all, or no?
We can do, yeah. Who wants to get a drink? We do.
No, well, let's we'll do the next one, right? And
Yeah,
we'll just take a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
That's it. And
Yeah.
Comfort break, as they call it, corporate speak.
for break. In Poppers, there just said no.
Corporate speak.
Oh yeah. Right.
So yeah, and in terms of the distillery itself, you're building a micro distillery across the way.
No. So we have a micro distillery.
Yeah, that's where you're currently making your gins and.
So we're building a full scale whiskey distillery across the road from that, right?
Okay.
Literally, fully planned. The equipment is ordered. So early part of next year we'll get started on that. Take about a year to build it. So that's going to kind of, we're then going to be doing we could probably do about 4 casks on the shift, right? So proper, like you'll see in Connacht, like you'll see, yeah.
Will you move everything across the road?
Yeah,
or will you keep
absolutely.
it?
Yeah. No, we'll move the whole shoot.
And what have you in the micro distillery at the moment?
So we have 150 litres still. Ruler still, which again Julia would be very familiar with. And if I'm honest about it, we have a brew house that Mike bought off eBay there about 2 years ago, so it's a lot of hard work goes into making a batch of stuff, but it's scale. Like if you think of I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with distilling or you've had some exposure to it, right? So if you think of distilling gin, right, you're putting 40% alcohol into a still. You're heating it up to the boiling point of alcohol higher, and the vapor is coming off, condensing, and you're getting a liquid at about 80%, 85% alcohol. Okay. If you think about distilling whiskey, you're doing well if you can get your wort, right, to about 8% after fermentation, right? And you've got to get that up to 80-85%. So you have an awful lot of concentrating up to do, right? Which is where kind of double distilling and triple distilling comes in, right? And if your equipment is too small, you have an awful lot of hard work to do to bring it through those distillation processes. So, I suppose it was more a badge for us, being honest, in terms of saying, right, we've now got our GI verification for making whiskey, as well as having whiskies out there, right? The real kind of next step was to say we're actually a verified whiskey distillery. We have been verified for bottling and maturing, and you have to get verified for each step, right? Funnily enough, I just noticed during the week. I mean, and there's anyone into punching? Any into punching? So, it's the same verification process for whiskey as punching, right? Except you have to pay. I think it's either 1,000 or 1,250 a year to be verified to make punching, right? So one of the distilleries up the north, way up the other day said, actually we're stopping making poaching, right? Because paying £1,000, there's the first 100 bottles or more down the drain, right? And the poaching market is fairly kind of limited. So, and even within kind of Drinks Ireland and all of that, there's a working group on poaching to try and resurrect the category. But I mean, like we could make poaching, but we sort of said, here, we're not going to spend £1,000 to make 50 bottles a year, right? Spend another £1,000 next year. It doesn't make any sense. So actually, the best thing they could do to encourage people to make poaching is take away the £1,000 fee, because if we look at doing that, you're going to see other lads doing that, and that'll be the rocket on which the whole thing perishes, right? Like the poaching, I think 4 or 5 years ago, the sales of poaching were 5,000 cases worldwide, right? The last figures I saw, sales of poaching were 13,000 cases, right? So there's no market in it, right? And it's going to take an awful lot of work to get it to. It's going to take an awful lot of work and marketing investments to get it to a point where consumer really wants it. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, we're not going to dash out and spend £1,000 to get verified to make it anyway. There would be more value for us to use our limited capacity to make whiskey than to make poaching. So that's that. Right. I'm waffling, I think. So let's crack on. So the third one here, right? So in 20, this is 23, 22, 21, right? So, as I said, some of these bridge whiskies we've kind of, bought over time, and not necessarily with any great plan as to what we were going to do with them, right? But I remember getting an external guy to taste, this is about 4 years ago, to taste all the whiskies we had. And we had about 30 different casks of whiskies and taste all of these samples. And he came back with one and he said, that's the Rockstar, right? That's the best whiskey that much. And it was a single grain whiskey called Bethlehem, right? So we released this 2 years ago, this time of the year, right? So go back to the theme of calling stuff after place names on Lough Ree, right? There was a place called Bethlehem. It's between Tang and Tubber Clare on the Westmeath side, right? And there was a convent of Poor Clare nuns came down from Dublin in 1631 and set up a convent there and called it Bethlehem, christened the area Bethlehem Point. So we thought, hey, this is a great marketing ploy here. Bethlehem ties in, and we'll release this as our Christmas release. Jesus, we're on it. Except it was kind of tail end of COVID. I think the bottles arrived on the 1st of December. We missed the Christmas market entirely with it, but such is life. So, but I suppose that kind of got us on to this notion of actually just these grain whiskies. Some of the finishes we're putting on them are really interesting. And I suppose to cap it all with Bethlehem, we put it in the Whiskey Awards and it won the gold medal for single grain Whiskey Awards, right? So this is good, right? So we had 2 more then the following year called Killinure and the Carroll, right? And so different the same 2009 Cooley grain, right? Except with different finishes, right? I can't just for the life of me remember what the finishes of them were. Sheila, do you remember? No. Like there's 25 releases now in the bridge, so I don't have them all exactly in my head. Mike could have them. And hey presto, didn't the Killinure win the gold medal at the Irish Whiskey Awards last year, right? So and again, cracking whiskey. So this year we had 2 of them called Inny Bay and Gailey Bay, and we're always kind of when we're naming whiskies, we always try and play both sides of the lake, that we're not just going down the Westmeath, the Longford side, the Westmeath side, that we do pay some tribute to the Connacht men or whatever. So Inny Bay is actually very close to where Bethlehem is where the Inny comes into the Lough Ree, and it's that overall area is called Inny Bay. So that's on the Westmeath side, and Gailey Bay is on the Roscommon side, right? So it's a nice little point, lovely little campsite there, between Le Carroll and the Crockery, if you've ever been up that country, right? Nice little kind of peninsula out the lake. That's Haley Bay. So Inny Bay is the first of those, right? So 2009 Cooley Grain. This one, 311 bottles. Bit of a kind of unusual maturation in this one. So it was in a bourbon cask for 9 years, 2 months. Okay. Then it went into a Salmontano wine cask, which is a red wine. Okay. For 15 and a half months, right? And that might sound awfully kind of particular, right? But, bear in mind, Mike is kind of watching these and tasting these all the time. And he just felt that it was getting a bit too dry. So he took it out of that cask and he put it back in Maker's Mark cask for the remainder of the maturation, right? Which was about 2.5 years. Okay. So, again, the Salmontano cask. Salmontano is a region in the Pyrenees near Raya. Okay, so it's nearly like there's a clamor to find the most unusual cask you can put whiskies in sometimes. But we don't necessarily follow that. Mike looks after that end of the business for us, right? I mean, I'd say the Salmontano red wine cask right on top of the for Shiela. No, ouch is all we'd say. We wouldn't necessarily know it, But that's the story. So it's really interesting, actually. Smell it. I mean, it's. What do we get?
I got not much sternness to it, but it must be the right.
And then we get strawberries.
Yeah. It's fruity, yeah. It's fruity.
Again, I'm just reading Mike's notes here. Leaf tobacco. Anyone getting leaf tobacco? Certainly, I'm not getting that out of it. Strawberry and cherry aromas. Mike said it reminded him of he worked in the factory that made Special K at some stage, right? Special K, cherries and strawberries were the berries that were used in it. The aroma, that was what took out. Yeah, have a taste of it. 13 years, yeah. 2009 Cooley Grain. Yeah. So just over 9 years in bourbon, 15 and a half months in the red wine cask, and then back into bourbon again for about 2.5 years. So
is there a spread across different between the G&D and the across the bridge range? Is there different producers?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Bushmills.
Yeah, we've had Bushmills. I suppose the backstory to that is when we started with this, right? We were getting offered casks, and again, I'll be straight up with this, I suppose. So Ali Alpine, the Celtic whiskey shop, is a family friend of ours, right? His wife and our sister, another sister, only 4 sisters, so another one trained to be nurses together, and I'd say Sheila's the only one I could work with actually, so that's a separate thing. But so when we started looking at this idea, first we went into Ali, and I'd say we just kept coming back so often. Jesus, these lads better entertain them, they might actually do it. But so when we started on the journey and wanted to buy whiskey, like if you think of the Celtic whiskey shop and all the stuff that they do, fellas would be offering him all kinds of stuff, right? He'd have his finger on the pulse of what's available out there in the market. So he certainly pointed us in the right direction initially. We started saying, actually, there's a fella, somebody has offered me 6 casks of Bushmills or 5 casks of Cooley Grain or whatever. I don't want it. So we were getting first dibs on some stuff that he was happy to point us in the direction of, if that makes sense, and also then, he was certainly pointing us in the right direction in terms of casks and sourcing casks, right? And the cask world now, I mean, if you saw some of the mails you get on casks and where they come from, I was at a fair, must be 2 years ago, this big strapping red-headed lad full of freckles comes up to me selling casks, you know, and I'd say they'd only watched the tarmac all the time. So, you know, it's kind of, casks are nearly a commodity, right? So, you know, yeah, for cash, so they were for cash as well. And I could have bought some dates to put them behind as well, you know, and some cutters to put over them, you know. So, there you go. So, sorry, I'm going off track here now altogether. But you know, so the whiskies have been everything from, we've had Bushmills, and again, we ended up with about 12 casks of 2014 Bushmills. Some of it was crackers. So two of them we actually just released on their own, straight bourbon, right? One last year, Port Runny, one previous year, Barley Harbour, one. So one of them at about 6 and the other one at about 8. They were gorgeous. They were really, really good. They're probably the only two that we've not put a finish on, right? But we've used that Bushmill stuff. I mean, I think the Saints Island whiskey was that Bushmills malt in a big old sherry cask. Elfie Bay was that Bushmills malt in a Jesus, can't remember what that was. Rindoon was that Bushmills malt in a dry white wine cask. You know, so we've used them in different ways, right? Yeah. The Cooley grains, that 2009 batch of Cooley grains has been fantastic, right? And you know, we still have more of that to come. I suppose any of the newer stuff we're sourcing, typically for the beer cask finishes, tends to be Great Northern, right? But I mean, the liquid coming out of Great Northern is really, really good, right? You're you know, and the guys are real easy to work with. You know, I know it's a real kind of commercial enterprise, and John Teeling is behind it. But I mean, and I don't take that. We absolutely couldn't have more respect for John Teeling. He's a brilliant guy. He's really good for guys like us. You know, he's really open. You know what I mean? He's nothing but encouraging the fellas. But the liquid they make up there is really good, right? And we've tasted you make and from other guys, and it just isn't the same. So we're always confident that you know, putting new Great Northern liquid into any of our casks, the starting point is as good as it can. Yeah. So that's in eBay. Again, this strawberry thing. I just keep getting the strawberries on it here on the taste. Hint of chocolate.
You do get kind of you might get from a wine, a tannins, you know, astringency on your tongues, like
it's like a dark chocolate.
Yeah, you can get that from it, yeah.
And Mike has some fresh mint. I'm sure I'm getting that now. But so finished dry, and actually definitely get this on the finish. Cracked black pepper. You get this kind of, it's just coming to me now more and more, this kind of cracked black pepper. So spiciness, more red fruit, then this cracked black pepper. So we were at the Whiskey Awards last Wednesday night. So in between Julia's multiple stage appearances there, we were called up. So this won the gold medal, the single grain category at the Irish Whiskey Awards last Wednesday. So we were chuffed with that. That was our third year winning the gold medal. So the Bethlehem won it, the Killinure won it, and the Iny Bay won it. So we were pretty happy with that. So sorry. That Harbour won above it. No, yes, yeah, the Iny Bay, yeah. That's the beauty of whiskey, you know. Just as well you weren't on the judging panel. Will you let us know when you're judging the whiskey awards? I'm sure he's not there. There you go.
But as a grain, you know, grains can often be.
Yeah, but wait, now the next one will sort you out. Don't worry. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Any what do you think of that?
It's lovely. It's very like Barry Crockett.
See, I don't taste anyone else.
That'd be different. But if we had other really like,
Go back to your question. So the next, we have two of those single grains out, right? And I would say it's nearly 50-50. People saying, no, which one they prefer.
Right.
And that's the beauty of whiskey,
Yeah.
right? That's absolutely the beauty of whiskey.
It's a standalone, it's great, but what's happening here is you're comparing it to those two.
Yeah.
So that's what's throwing you off.
The metal one, like this.
Yeah, so that's what.
That one is died and quicker, you know.
Yeah.
But you know,
The finish.
it drops off. So that it's finished.
No.
So will we take 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
okay, yeah.
9:05. Are we under a curfew here? No.
No,
No, we're not. No.
Sorry. I have a meeting in Dublin at 4 o'clock tomorrow, so we'll have to be back for that. All right.
Lots of times it's no, you're very interacted over back there, so we're trying to relate some of it to you. It's a one-way signal.
Right. Yeah, that's the that was we need the next bit. See this man's reaction. Yeah. No, no, it is.
I had this situation.
It's possible that it's just I don't know what it is. I was also buying fast buying regularly, right? Like I was tired and bad humor. I swear to God, I was up there during the summer and I'd say that was for 2 years. But I have the midnight one there, which the 35. So yeah, I mean I never mind people listening and drinking. Because when I wake up the next morning, Jesus,
Like smoking 20 bags, like
you know what I mean?
like this, Longford camp, and you have that.
Yeah.
That actually pick up tricky. You get him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, over there. Learning. I was very much dead. Straight away.
Yeah.
I suppose I don't have the same frame of reference. Nearly like again, if I'm guys, obviously
That's the winner. That's it.
it's drinking one spot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I was going to buy another box, I'd always buy them from like I've gone past and saying, oh, that's what like.
Yeah.
Mr. Pernod Ricard doesn't have any more money. Yeah, so my frame of reference is probably more the peer group and checking out what they have. Kind of stuff. Yeah. Things like that, food stuff. Morgan Gings and Ballykeith, this only his stuff is such really good. So that's really good.
Oh, I have tried the single state stuff.
Yeah. As good as this.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Pot filled in it, yeah.
But no, it's only about 5-year-old
Yeah.
at this stage. No, the pot still is really good. Like, who else now? Like, trying to really.
Oh,
Yeah. Then you kind of go, I'm going to spend money with other people. That's just me off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like going to nip out for a smoke.
Each question goal. No, yeah, but you walk back, when the country is green, so it's one of the things to do. He might, but he likes to miles or whatever. I wouldn't know wait till when it's next when it is because in that category is in it's very that's the big yeah, that's great. Oh, some good it's very very one kind of like the same, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Julius said.
Dead when he turns away from
Yeah,
it,
I said they have road bikes.
yeah. Good name. So the goal is oh,
They're
yeah.
oh, you should tomorrow.
Oh, aren't you? Oh, okay, okay.
I said things.
Okay, it won't be up too late.
No.
Go to here. What's this thing?
Will we go again, lads? Okay. We're off again. We're off again. So, we're finished on the bottom row. So onto the top shelf. That's what I said, yeah. Right, so working from the left, right? So
Left, right.
left. The left as I'm looking at you. So this one here is Gailey Bay, right? Gailey Bay. Continuing on the grain theme, still a single grain. It's the sister of the previous one, Winnie Bay, right? Same whiskey, same 2009 Cooley grain. Went into the cask, I suppose, at the same time, 9 years, 2 months out of the bourbon cask, except we left this in Oloroso sherry cask all the way through, right? So 3 years, 10 months in sherry cask, Oloroso sherry. 324 bottles. And again, this is the beauty, the previous one was 314, I think. This is 324 bottles. So this is where you might put in the same amount, but the same amount doesn't come out. You know what I mean? And that's just the alchemy of it. The ABVs can be slightly off, or you can lose a little bit here and there. So, and the cask is different. The casks interact differently and stuff. So, this I suppose is more your classic kind of sherry finish, right? On the nose again, you're getting these kind of fruits. I mean, raisins, Micah's on the nose, antique furniture, right? How that's appealing to anyone, I'm not quite sure, but anyway, sweet, nutty, and you get the kind of nuttiness. Rapid furniture. So you're probably used to this. Yeah. So then on the taste. Again, rich kind of sherry fruit, notes again, right? Tobacco and leather.
There is, yeah. You get that coming later. Differently, yeah.
Yeah, you can drink that all day, couldn't you? Yeah. 3.5 years in all, 3 years, 10 months actually, almost 4 years. So it was nearly like another maturation rather than a finish. You know what I mean? And I suppose we found that at times, say the likes of the Bethlehem was still and over 3 years in this big old sherry cask, just picking up these massive sherry flavors. On the finish, a bit of spiciness, oak spice, and again you're back to this kind of caramelized fruit, sherry. Yeah. What do you think, sir? Any better? I won the best single grain at the Whiskey Awards last week. Yeah. So maybe you were there the day you were drinking. I won the best. Yeah. So that won the category. Yeah. So we were tough with that. We were tough to win 2 medals in the category. I mean, but yeah, no, this is.
Consider doing a release like that, 10 casks. I know
It's probably impossible to be replicated. It's difficult to replicate it.
Yeah, like I mean, you see guys coming out with kind of limited releases of 5,000 bottles or 10,000 bottles, and that's what they're doing, right? It's they're ultimately getting liquid, putting it in a particular type of cask, and then you would imagine doing some form of blending the liquid among the casks when it goes back, right? It's
Batting kind of.
it's as we grow as a business, oh no, 100%, right? Like so, say even one of these, right? We've a big order of stuff going to the States in a minute, right? And we've a single cask of one of the beer casks going to Ohio. The liquor board of Ohio bought the whole cask, right? 288 bottles, right? For the committee, yeah. But so we've had to go through and get that particular product, right, approved in the US, right? And then we've had to go through and get the labels for that particular product approved back in Ireland with the Department of Agriculture, you know, and then go and get 300 labels printed, right? So at some point, you know, the commerciality of these small releases is more difficult, right? And it's like, as a small business, it's this kind of trade-off between, you know, you know, we couldn't afford to turn around and buy 10 casks of 10-year-old liquid and sit on them for 3 years with the alchemy, right? You know what I mean? It'll be the end of it, you know. So, you know, whereas you look at people like, say, Welsh whiskey, or, you know, people who have been 20 years at this, right? Where you know, they probably bought stuff when it was 5-year-old and talking about it, and it come back 10 years later and just right, I think it's casks. You know, that's what happens as these businesses kind of go. You know, I've no doubt we get there, because, you know, if you think of the kind of journey, you know, Bart's is a kind of a step up from your standard blend of Jameson or Paddy or Powers, right? Design is a step up. It's a 46% label going on it. The Bridge series is the next step up again, right? So as you want to kind of grow as a brand, we're going to have to find a way of satisfying that broader market, which works commercially. Oh no, 100%, 100%, yeah.
And there isn't a load of I mean, there's a huge, to have what, 25 single cask. There isn't many brands that could boast having 25 single cask releases out there. You know,
like, you know, I'd love to say it was this brand strategy at the start. Something that's kind of accidental. You know what I mean? So, and I suppose that's the path we're on. You know, ultimately, you can kind of see a point where our own whiskey distilled in Lanesborough might supersede all of the Bridge range, right? And the Bridge range retires at some point, right? But I suppose for the moment, that's the path we're on, right? Now, you can help us with the commercialization of it if you want by using the code and going on buying a bottle. That's
we might have our own society bottling with you.
No, we'd love to. We'd love to. You know, we'd love to.
And have you a lot of stock, you know, to continue, you know, with single cask?
You know, you're like I was saying about pot still. You know, we probably bought 8 or 10 casks of pot still back 2 or 3 years ago. That we haven't done anything in pot still in Bridge yet, right? That's now probably coming to the point where we need to make some decisions around that. And like that might be the kind of thing where we say, well, actually, let's put all 8 of those in sherry finish or something, as opposed to doing them one by one. Yeah, you know, so it's nearly as you're kind of growing through the business and understanding the market dynamics and some of that sort of stuff. So it's all. This business is like an onion, you know. You're gonna peel back one layer, there's another layer, and then another layer. And you think you've got your head around something.
Another nice little touch you see in the Bridge series. I mean, all the labels they're all signed, right? And they're physically signed, or what is it? Or?
Oh yeah, physically signed. Yeah, I mean, I spent.
He's not joking now. They are actually
physically signed. Kelly Bay. I mean, no, I'm the laziest of the three of us when it comes to that, you know. So Mike says, if you ever find Peter's name on a bottle, it's going to be a good one. It's worth money, you know. And you know, we started this originally that where all three of us would sign the bottles. And after the second, we got Jack and Ash like. So
It's one of us.
it's one of us. Yeah, I mean, and whatever about signing them when they're on the flat, like if we haven't signed them and the lads are bottling, they'll just bottle away and put the labels on. Tell you what, it's great crack taking bottles out of cases, trying to sign them, putting them back into cases. It's a you know.
Staying away from the 10,000, so yeah.
Well, you know, but yeah, in the Bridge, it's kind of, you know, you'll see fellas have their signatures on it, but it's all they've done is given their signature to the printer and it's just replicated. There's no value in that, right? So we would see there's some value in having these personally signed by us, right? You know, and you know, the bottles we sign, we feel are worthy of being signed. You know, that they're good whiskies, and we're happy to sign.
You be part of that process.
Yeah, you know, it's like there's an awful lot of glamour in this business, but that's not one of the glamour. You know, it's a pain, but hey, that's the nature of it, you know. So what do we think of that?
That's excellent, yeah.
What, are you happier? Good.
It doesn't even come across as a grain, really. You know, it's like,
No, I mean,
because of the finish on it, yeah.
I think the grains, certainly the kind of, you know, the older the grain gets, right, the better it is. But like, you know, it would be very hard to do that with a 5 or 6 year old grain. I don't think it would have the characteristics to take the finish, right? We haven't tried it yet, but I suppose that's just our sense of it, where it's the older grains. And it's funny, John Teeling would be a big advocate of grain whiskey. Like John would sort of say, I don't know if people that it's all business drinking, right? Grain whiskey is, you know, has enormous potential. You know, everyone is kind of chasing down the malt route or chasing down the pot still route. Whereas he would sort of say, lads, grain whiskey is a lot cheaper. That's the thing. Like, why is the biggest proportion of a blend grain? It's because it's as mature whiskey, right? It's probably half the price of malt, right? So when you bring the commercial back into it, you know, and the cheaper blends, you will see are predominantly grain, 90% grain, 95% grain, with a sprinkling of malt in it. That's because they're trying to get a price point. So that's the way that works. So
Just for instance, like he wanted his great
thousands of casks, right? I heard John thing up in Athlone recently, and the food hub there, and the drinks forum, and it's really good actually. So a lot of the producers were there. John was the guest speaker. If you like that, but it isn't John all day. He's like most come down from the mountain, right? And it's there in an audience of whiskey people. They would we'd all, you know, if you throw it around an off-tree basket, we'd all have empty their pockets, you know. And so John that day says to us that he is distilling 1.5 million bottles a week worth of whiskey up in Great Northern, right? And he says, at this stage, I have more money tied up in the wood in the cask than in all my distilleries, right? That'll give you some idea, right? Of the amount of casks. And I remember actually, there was a guy, his lead blender up there was a guy called Brian Watts, who passed away live one day about 2 years ago of a heart attack. Lovely, lovely man. He's a Scotsman. I remember when we were up there talking about Bart, Brian took out some spreadsheet one day, and they had 324,000 storage. Right? That's about 2 years ago. Right? So, not if he's still in 1.5 million bottles a week worth of stuff. You know, there's been a.
But to do that much and still produce quality stuff as well.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Yeah. So his column stills, I mean, his pots, he has 3 big pots up there. He has a jade still, and he has column still. Great. Yeah. It's kind of starting to correct itself, you know. Kind of this time last year, it was very hard to get aged malt, like 5, 6 year old malt, because there wasn't enough of it laid down 5 or 6 years beforehand, right? That's now it's available again. So, you know, like John is, I know so many customers he has, put more than 200 customers, like for bulk or brand. Blend. Yeah. Like last year he came out and said he wasn't supplying any aged malt up to the end of this year. He needed it all for blend customers. That'll give you an idea of the scale that he's operating.
So I was down with the guys at Port McGee down in Kerry, and like they started off the very first cask of John Teeling. They said they got treated like royalty, and it was just one cask they bought. And, you know, it started off their brand like amazing.
They won't sell you less than 8 now anyway, because they checked.
Well, it's generally 1,000 LPA. Yeah. Like their wholesaler, you know.
Yeah.
Their wholesaler. That's so.
Are you putting in the column still now in the new distillery, or?
It's up for debate, I suppose. Yeah. It's up for debate. Yeah, there's different schools of thought in it. I mean, could you make the product as cheap as you could make, as you can buy it?
Yeah,
make
probably not.
Scale he's working at is a thing. And yet you're a hostage to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the wholesale prices went up 25% last year. And like, It lads are going up 25%. No choice, and you're a price taker. So,
But
yeah.
even if you do it at home, your own prices are going to go up based on raw materials and energy and the whole lot as well. So you have to
well, I mean,
contend
I
with that too.
suppose I can understand the prices that you make going up, right? Prices of mature whiskey went up 25% as well, which didn't have the same input costs.
But it's like,
So,
but still, it's like buying a second-hand car. I mean, the price of going up too. And
so you're kind of going, okay, I believe one bit of this story, but I'm sure I think the other bit is just it's just commercialization, you know. So right, we'll move on. Right, so there's the two grains. Enjoy those, yeah. The two best grains. I can't remember who won the other gold medal actually. I can't remember. Anyway,
very good.
Not worth remembering. But
The second.
we were up there at Dunville. Dunville won all three prizes in one category. Literally.
Really?
Single casks. They literally Dunville's, Jesus Christ, nearly had to get a 40-foot lorry to bring home one of the prizes. And Walsh's were the other thing with something.
Really, yeah.
Walsh, yeah. They like the Irishman stuff. It's really, really good. Like, always good.
Well, it's
Okay.
great to hear you talking about other distilleries like that as well. You won't find it from. Sometimes you get someone down and they won't want to, appreciate what's going on around the industry. But,
And maybe that's the difference between having a brand ambassador down here and having a brand owner or a distillery owner, right? I mean, we're on Thursday. So we're all in the Whiskey Association. I won't say we're all in the Whiskey Association, but something like 95% of the producers and 98% of the volume is in the Whiskey Association, right? The Whiskey Association their job is, I suppose, education, but a large part of it is actually to protect the category, right? So there's two barristers in there whose job is to protect Irish whiskey as a category, right? I can't remember this stat exactly, but something like last year, they came across 66 cases of fraudulent Irish whiskey products on the market, right? And it issued 40 cease and desist letters, right? So I think Irish whiskey is GI verified, right? So, and it's difficult to play by the rules, and it's more expensive to play by the rules, right? So you're always going to have lads in markets, particularly the further away you get from Ireland, who are putting stuff in bottles and calling it Irish whiskey, right? And not going through the same label and regulations and all of that the rest of us have, right? And it's, I suppose that might seem like a pain in the ass, and at times it can be a pain in the ass for us having to adhere to that process and go through it. But ultimately, it's in our own interest and in the interest of the category, right? And I think it was earlier this year, Irish whiskey, it reached €1 billion in exports, right? Which was big milestone. Okay? About 2 weeks later, Scotch whiskey came out and reached €6 billion in exports, right? That just shows you where Irish whiskey is relative to in the world scene, right? But therein is the opportunity, right? Irish whiskey, I think, grew 10.1% last year. It's now 15, almost 16 million cases. The whiskey market as a whole is growing at about 4.5 to 5% worldwide, right? So Irish whiskey is growing at double that, triple that, right? And still by 2030, we'd still only have 12% market share, right? So if 4 to 5% is the average, somebody has to be only growing at 1 or 2, which is Scots, right? But if you think of the volume, Scotch on a volume basis is probably growing at more volume than Ireland. They have so much volume that 1 or 2% growth is such a massive figure. It's more than the 10 or 15% Irish whiskey growth, right? So, but and what's driving that trend? There's 3 or 4 things driving that trend. China. I heard somebody say China. China is a bit of a funny one. I had a Chinese lady in recently. I was trying to flog Bart to her, right? And can you put it in a different bottle? Why? Because the last thing the Chinese are interested in is the liquid, right? Status. Heavier the bottle, the look, right? So in China or in the Asian countries, right? The new wealthy drinking brown liquor is a status symbol, right? So the look and the feel and the weight of the bottle, right? Nearly more important than the liquid. Right? So, we're there thinking, okay, we have this big sustainability story. And, you know, Eamon Ryan is off out at COP28, whatever, doing his gig, right? And the Chinese couldn't give rats about the face, right? It's, you know, heavy bottle, stainless steel. So that's one of the trends driving it and actually Teeling, I was on lunch about 7 or 8 years ago, Teeling stood up and he says, 2 billion people moving into the middle classes worldwide next decade, right? And he says, I have the stuff to sell. So if you ever did any research on John Teeling, he was into diamonds, gold, brown liquor, right? And that's what these 2 billion. And at that thing up in Athenry recently, he trotted out the same statistic, except now it was 3 billion people, right? So the world population is growing. But so that's one of the trends. The other is health conscious consumer, right? So young people don't drink as much beer as fellas my age. And I'm living proof beer makes you fat, right? And young people don't like to be fat, right? So they drink more spirits. Okay. So that's another trend. And the other one is females, right? So and again, John Teeling would say 45% of Irish whiskey is drank by females, right? Females, yeah, females are the trend, yeah. Until you marry one, and then they're not trend, they're fucking adult because that's another thing. No, yeah, but and so Irish whiskey, like if you think of some of the Scotches, right? Scotch is a real, you know, old men smoky pubs, the real peaty Scotch, right? It's not very enticing for females to drink, whereas Irish whiskey, triple distilled Irish whiskey, much softer, easier spirit to drink. So you're getting this kind of increased levels of females drinking whiskey as well. Not just Irish whiskey, all whiskies, right? So those three things are driving the kind of global attention. So it's like it's bananas. Honest to God, you could now somebody's very price driven, right? You know, Nigeria was the fastest growing market last year, except what they want to buy is €5 bottle of whiskey. Nobody in Ireland can make €5 bottle of whiskey, right? The Scotch can. The Scotch can give you a whiskey in a bottle, right, for less than €2. Amazing. But that's because there's such a volume of whiskey built up over years and years. Right? So, right, we'll move on.
No one wants it. They want the Irish.
They want the Irish because they can see the trend kind of, but you know, there's nobody who can put whiskey in a bottle. John Teeling probably could because he has the stock, right? West Cork could have a hop on it, right? But there's no other brand who could actually buy whiskey, put it in a bottle, and sell it for €2, €2.50.
But the investment is coming in towards Irish. You know, you see investors outside of Ireland, they all want to invest into Irish distilleries that are, you know, like yourselves or.
Yeah, I mean, what you see is
or running to a Scotch distillery, you know.
Yeah, what you see is brands, right? So if you think of a brand, let me give you an example. So Sazerac coming in buying Paddy, right? Okay, so Sazerac are a big American brand with, I can't think of what their main product is. Rye whiskey, they're into, I think it's Sazerac Rye. But they have other products in the portfolio as well, right? But you know, several years ago they would have looked around and said, Jesus, Irish whiskey's on this growth curve. We better get on board here. And you look at the Busker guys, I mean, came out of Bernard Walsh Whiskey, Royal Oak Distillery, the Italian steel ceramic guys, the guys that make amaretto. Obviously said here, Irish whiskey is on this growth curve, you know, and have bought in. So you're going to get the big whiskey players, you know, Brown-Forman buying with Slane. So you see the bigger lads are constantly kind of, listen, hopefully someday some fella's going to land down in Lanesborough with a big checkbook. Me and Sheila, you're going to put a hip zeros on it, and you know, we'll take down our website that day, and that'll be the end of it. Put us out of our misery. Oh, we love it. Right, we'll move on. Right, bit of a curly one here next. So we're not big peated fans, right? So this one is called Cruising Point, right? Cruising Point again, following the Lough Ree team. Cruising Point is down near the Athlone end of it, very near Wineport Lodge, Glasson Lake House, if any of you know that kind of country. The other claim to fame of Cruising Point is it's where Robbie Henshaw is from. So, I mean, good rugby country here, so Robbie Henshaw, but then thought if Ireland won the World Cup, throughout your body. So they all kind of join up when that happens. So yeah, so what cruising point is, and this is, as I say, it's a bit of an unusual one. 16-year-old malt this time, right? Which I think is from Cooley. Yes, yes. 16-year-old malt from Cooley. Okay. What we did with this, and I'd love to say there was some science behind this, or it was done on purpose, or whatever else. And sometimes this stuff happens in the cemetery that don't even know about it. Might just do stuff and we find out several years later. You know? So what he did with this was put it in an ex-Lefroy cask. So if you know Lefroy whiskey, Lefroy Scotch, it's a peated Scotch, right? So he put it in an ex-Lefroy cask for 3.5 years. So the last 12.5 years of bourbon, 3.5 years in an ex-Lefroy cask. So not a peated whiskey, but a whiskey with some peat influence on it. Okay. So again, you're getting a bit of smokiness on the nose, floral, earthy, coffee. Fresh ripe apple he has in it. Yeah, I'm getting a bit of apple on it. So on the taste, not getting a massive amount of peat on the taste. I mean, I know it's there, but it's
Definitely do it.
not overpowering.
Mary said the same actually. It's the very you get the pride from it.
Yeah. Creaminess, citrus peel. I'm certainly getting a lot of citrusy kind of stuff there. 46. Yeah, 46. And the finish a little spicy. Definitely getting that. Delicate smoke.
It's delicate.
Yeah. It's subtle. It's
The Frog tend to be like a massive pork.
yeah. So it's this is an unusual one. 214 bottles, I think of it.
43 in stock.
43 in stock, is it? 208 bottles. 208 bottles. Get them while you can. Yeah, it's only 180 euros a bottle, so it's not for making Christmas cakes out of, like. What's the verdict on that?
It's nice, yeah.
What was the price of the last one?
So the 2 grains are 110.
110 each.
Yeah. Guinea and Gailey. Yeah. 10% off.
Yeah. I nearly prefer the Galley Bay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's there. It's not one that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a massive fan of it myself, to be honest with you. I suppose it just shows that
the peat is there, but it's very soft for 16, 18 euros. So.
Yeah, but it was like it's only had peat influence for 3.5 years. You know, it was in bourbon cask then, so it's not. It's peat finish rather than peat.
On the blind test now, I walk into that and say that's
Would you?
No.
I prefer that. Grain, yeah.
Yeah, it comes across as herbal, earthy and herbal rather than heavily smoked.
Get kind of a cola taste. Yeah. A cola, yeah. Kind of a cola.
Yeah, a little bit. I suppose it's more to show the variety of the breed range and what can be done. So
why is that so much lower? You have 212 bottles, is it?
208. I suppose. So 16-year-old malt would have had fewer bottles anyway coming out of the cask, and it would have been, we might have put it into a smaller cask.
Yeah,
I think this ex-Lefroy cask, like a 208 bottle, it was in a cut down cask, which I think was a remade cask from Lefroy. It wasn't a full Lefroy cask or something. So and again, that's completely black art, that whole cask side stuff. Maybe there's, there's fellas putting down casks, recharring casks, doing all kinds of stuff. So it's a whole science in its own right.
It is nice.
Julia's very good at it.
Yeah. She thought, we were up last week with her and a couple of weeks ago and talking about how casks have been shaved and these neok casks and the whole lot.
So
It's been done with them, yeah.
No, it's a mad business. Like the bourbon guys in the States sell their casks into Europe. And then you have the kind of wineries and the sherry makers, and the port makers, and the rum makers, and the Madeira makers. Stuff gets kind of recycled, and ultimately it becomes flower pots, I suppose.
And it's going to become more and more of that because of the whole push on recycling and the whole lot. Reuse. The idea in the US you can only use it once and throw it away.
Yeah.
Essentially what they're doing with bourbon.
You would think
can't carry on.
At some point, But hey, that's right. So that's us done with the whiskies, right? You're probably wondering, well, hang on, there's another glass left here. What's the story? So, this is a palate cleanser, I think, really more than anything else. And Mike loves this stuff. Kind of, I was reading his tasting notes, and retrospection is a great thing because certainly not the way I remember this product being developed, but that it was we said during COVID we might as well make some interesting spirits. I suppose the only thing is he never told himself Shiela was making some interesting spirits, so he just went off on a bit of a solo run with this one. So no, it's not hand sanitizer now. I think while we were busy making hand sanitizer, Mike was making this. That might be the salient point. This clear out your system anyway. If nothing else, don't worry. You'll be right as well. So what this is this product here is double peated vodka. Okay. So I spoke about Sling Shot, and in Sling Shot, one of the distillates being peat. Okay. So what we did was we took that distillate and we put it in a cask so we've only released 2 peated whiskies in the Bridge series, released 3 and 4, I think, called Mount Dillon at the station, right? And because the power station was closing in Lanesborough and everything else, we were sitting on these casks. I think we'd use them someday. Suggested, right? We're never used them now because all these lads are retired. Loads of lads up in Lanesborough with bottles at the station and bottles redundancy money. This was 3 years ago. They'll never be open, right? If you're looking for any of those, go up and start knocking on doors, and then please surely find one. Right? Fellas who never drank in their life, we're getting presents. So we took one of those casks, can't remember which one actually, and put the peated distillate from Sling Shot into it, right? Now bear in mind the peated distillate from Sling Shot isn't peated, right? We're having this discussion, turkey and melon. So the double peat is nearly a misnomer on this because it's the first peat isn't imparting any peatiness. It's the peated cask that's giving it the peatiness. So have a little taste of this, see what you think.
It's funny because it's obviously a white spirit, but it still has peatiness to it that you wouldn't normally associate with something that's been in a cask,
Yeah, and it's a slight tinge. I actually thought it was a bit darker myself, but it has a slight tinge.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
Now, Mike's tasting notes on this are interesting, right? Really unusual, earthy, rubbery, right? And he said one punter described it as like the inside of a bicycle tire. So, I'm not sure where the taste appeal is in that, but anyway.
He could be right. Yeah. That punter.
I'm saying that soft, easy to drink. The ABV, and again, like if you think of most whiskies are kind of all of the Bridge are 43 to 46, right? Bart's is 46. Vodkas are generally at 37.5. So the kind of lower ABV is nearly diluting the kind of alcohol strength in it a little bit. 37 and a half. Yeah. 37 and a half.
This is something.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have the alcohol taste in it that you would expect from a whiskey. Yeah.
It's very like punchy.
Yeah, I think Putty would have
More of a bite from Butchie.
yeah, for sure. Interesting, you're right. In kind of cocktails, like you put this in we're always playing around with different cocktails, like a kind of a mule or a highball or something like that. You can, we have a lad who plays around with this, bless me. Brought something to me one day and said, "Here, what do you think is in that?" And I knew straight away that this one was it. It just had this smokiness at the end of the cocktail. So, we have a distributor in Italy who is mad into peated stuff and loves this, right? So hopefully he's going to buy more and more of it. We have lots of it there. But, so listen, that's something different to round off the evening. I suppose not quite a whiskey to finish a whiskey tasting with, but something slightly different. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
It's the same. I think it's the same distance that's used for the gin. Only the gin version has juniper put into it. It's basically yeah. Yeah, it would be very similar. Only just juniper's added to it. To make the gin. Same.
Before I finish, I mean, I just that's the kind of whiskey end of it, right?
Well, they obviously so not a fan of whiskey, so that's why it's certainly
Jim, some of these are I'm going to say accidental products, right? But we do a lot of brand stuff. So say like Sean's Bar in Athlone, right? We make tea. The boys want to make big gin. Great big gin. We can make it for them. We can make one of ourselves. We were down at the Ploughing recently. The women my age coming up saying, "Oh, can I try the big gin?" Yeah, so but you won't like it, right? Oh, what I like taste first. The taste disgusting.
Yeah.
Right? Their 20-year-old daughter be there with them. She tasted budgets that's gorgeous. Right? So because the taste profile, as you get older, like the younger people are into sweets, right? So this
is that coloured?
that's coloured, yeah.
It's coloured.
It's coloured. Like we're not big fans of colouring, right?
Yeah.
It has to be coloured, right?
Okay.
But we use natural colour, so that's the only.
Where do you buy your neutral spirit for the founder series?
So
Is that G&D as well, or?
No, other neutral spirit we buy from Carbon Milk. Well, I think we're not supposed to say it's Carbon Milk, right? Carbon Group in West Cork, right?
Who's it?
So, Carbon Group.
Never heard of it.
So it's whey based. It's made from whey, right?
Right.
So whey is a byproduct of the cheese making industry.
Yeah.
Think in the nursery around curds and whey.
Yeah.
Right? So years ago they used to just throw the whey away, right? And then all the bodybuilders got into it, including myself, obviously.
Just to feed it to the cows.
Yeah, and so these guys come up with a process to ferment it and make industrial alcohol out of it,
Right.
So a lot of the Irish distilleries would use this as their base spirit for white spirits. So say, and Julia been very familiar with this. She would have worked a lot with
I thought when I did hear you were buying from Cork, and I thought it was West Cork or somewhere. It's not.
No. So it's this neutral spirit from there. Really good base spirit. Because it's kind of come from the dairy industry, milk based kind of. It's got this kind of creaminess to it, which just adds to it. Like again, Julia might disagree with me here, but you hear fellas making stuff out of potato based neutral spirit. Like anytime I taste it with potato, it starts rough. No matter how many times you distill it, it's still rough, right? So we would again, some people that's their USP, not for us, right? And so again, in this range, Zesty Vodka. Zesty Vodka is actually the citrus distillate from Sling Shot, right? Which Julia was here in the middle of this. When we were distilling these, we were all going, Jesus, that's nice. Okay. So we released this a year after Sling Shot at the Food Fair 2019. A week later, it won the best Irish vodka at the Irish Whiskey Awards. Okay. That competition then didn't happen again until last year. And hey presto, won the best Irish vodka again last year, right? So Kraken vodka, citrus vodka, really good, really, you know, put this over ice, it's like limoncello, right? Really, really nice. Okay. Then, surprise, surprise, we were at the Whiskey Awards the other night, and they call out the best Irish vodka, and it was this product, which was our 99 vanilla vodka, right? Which again is a product we've created for the kind of cocktail market and the younger generation. The difference between this and others, I suppose, is this is naturally infused vanilla. If you look at it, it kind of nearly looks like whiskey. That's because we actually macerate vanilla past the alcohol. So we were chuffed with that. I was chuffed with that. We went for that.
Julia said that the vodka that we tried, it was the best vodka ever next to Zesty. So,
so we have the two best vodka.
So are we gonna try the Zesty or the vanilla? Which do you reckon? Julia reckons the Zesty, but the public have chosen the vanilla, so I think we chose the one.
Fellas who are drink the white nagging, you know.
We should
It's here to taste, so
yeah. We should have a public vote. Should we go for the Zesty or should we go for the vanilla?
it's gonna work away.
Yes.
Jesus, don't tell him that. Send them home yet.
This could be or the Treaty Whiskey. It could be the Treaty Vodka Society. Yeah, you know, you probably all start drinking vodka. Probably got you come full circle. So, this for us, that was huge, right? And you know what? So we've actually created the best Irish vodka every year since 2019, right? So we're 100%.
But it's great because we've had pre-tastings, we've had gin cocktails and everything. So we haven't had any vodka before, so it's great to see it here, have it, and
listen, we only brought the best stuff down here.
Oh yeah,
we didn't bring any out down here. We just brought the best stuff. Like go back to so we have customers who have taken that vodka. But they're going through scale. And they're now taking equal votes. We fill in the bottle. So, you know, I just say get that award and some of that now. So it's something we can build on. The last product I have here, again, at the risk of boring you today, I suppose, is Atchel Gin. Atchel is the Irish for juniper. Again, this definitely was a COVID project, right? A COVID accident, shall I say. We were distilling a contract gin for somebody else. There was some Irish juniper in it. Mike tasted a little bit of, oh, Jesus, that's nice. Put it in competition. Called it actually, because you had to put a name on it, right? And here, I think it was like May 2020, you got it. Somebody said, oh yeah, that was AHL gin. The Masters medal that the World Gin. Which is that? Oh, geez, great, yeah. Except we don't actually have a product. So we had this mad big flurry going around and putting it in a bottle. Yeah, so this is the only 100% Irish gin made with Irish waste spirit and Irish gin. So nobody else in our news. I don't even know where we get it.
it is.
Well, one of these, if you take, I have a theory on this. It's a bunch of the traditional gin, my nose, drank gin, and there was only over 5 million for like 100%. And then Hendrix came along and created all this brand, bubble glass, all this gear, garnishes, and all the rest. So the more botanical gin.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you think tax.
Pass them around.
Like, you know, all of these 7 or 8 years.
Like the vanilla.
Whereas, you know, this age thing, right? So, if someone my age is up to me and says, let me taste gin, I'd probably higher chance that they like this for the juniper over the taste. Somebody 10 years or 15 years younger. So I get my case of Sling Shot because the fucking main one was with the big botanic study. It's just it's like other products. Just kind of leads the range for us. So what, you know, we can train about activity. Yeah, so momentum. So this all of these keep on stuff. Find more time to regard. So that's so. Right, lads.
That vanilla is beautiful.
Yeah.
You like it?
Oh, yes.
Listen, if that takes off, you know, come up to Lanesborough, we'll be the vanilla factory. 10 or 15 years time, you know? Or the pink gin factory, or we'll be the side by side factory, the pink gin factories. The kind of stuff, was there a lot of whiskey distilled? No.
Julia has a couple of comments there. She said that was a very Peter-ish, non-Michael-ish talk. Thanks for the entertaining hours, she said.
Hours.
Hours. Let's back to
No, well done. Thank you
Listen,
so
guys,
much
thanks
for
a million.
coming on.
I enjoyed it. Hopefully, everybody upstairs.
Thanks for asking. The fantastic 6 whiskies. Yeah, excellent.
Good. What was your favorite of the whiskies?
Mine was personally the Black Donkey or the Galley Bay.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Excellent. Yeah.
Right.
Black Donkey.
Black Donkey. Galley Bay.
Yeah.
They pick up the glass.
I should have went for it. Your man is in the furniture and Rakit there.
Oh.
Very good, lads. Thanks a million. I've enjoyed it. Cheers.
Want to mention about something that's happening on Saturday?
Yeah, so James was in Fine Wines just down the street here between 2:30 and 5 o'clock on Saturday. They're doing Sailor's Home. Sorry for the brand.
We cut the mic here now.
Doing a bit of a whiskey day out, and he said anybody who wants to call in, come down, the spot prizes and just a general whiskey kind of tasting. So it's really called out
On Saturday,
Saturday, yeah.
before the rugby.
40 minutes between 2:30 and 5.
The warm up.
And one last thing, obviously, distilleries don't survive on their own, right? They're capital hungry. So we have various investment programs. We have an EIS investment.
Oh yeah, we
program,
meant to talk
tax
about that.
free
Yeah.
thing, going on at the minute, close to the end of December, and we also have a cash program. So listen, you'll find the details online.
And a gin school for whoever's like.
Gin school, we've kind of phased out the
Have
gin
you?
school. It was in Dublin, and we were just getting it going coming into COVID. And COVID happened, we had closed. It was the back of a pub. And every time we went to reopen it, the regulations changed. And then the guy in the pub got busy and was using the room. Eventually, about a year ago, he said, "No, this is."
You can't stay in Dublin.
Well, it was for the market in Dublin.
Yeah.
Right? But, you know, just and then our business got busy. Like we're in I think we're in 13 countries now. So the alcohol side of the business has kind of grown and continues to grow. So it's you know, the gin school nearly became a distraction in that. You're better off just kind of sticking to the knitting.
So the investment programs, the EIS, is that towards what you're doing in the future or what? Or,
It's a mixture.
you can't buy cash now for future.
No, you can buy cars now for the future. Yeah,
Can you?
Yeah, you can.
Through EIS, we kind of investors in, we basically get tax relief on whatever it is you do. I'm not sure what the rate is currently, but it's very useful if you're a investor.
No, it's changing now at the end of this year, but you get 40% tax relief, right?
Yeah.
So you can put in 10 grand. The way it works is we can give you a coupon on it, 4.5% a year. But year one, you can reclaim 40% of that against tax. So you can get $4 grand in your tax return this time next year or next October, November. So you get 4% of the 6,000. Yeah. So look, if you look at the 10 grand, should net you about 12 grand.
It's about as well.
It's risk involved.
Exposing you to that stuff.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's
So
So every taste of it.
How much I like the top?
Yeah.
That was the same thing I did.
Oh, that's the gap. So you
I don't hear anyone else on the top.
Thank you so much. That's into Facebook. What difference in the picture? Find out what you check. YouTube is just get up stuff. Yeah. So that's why